let's have another DVD and Blu-ray update. Ahoy hoy everybody, and welcome to this DVD and Blu-ray update. So it is November the 19th. My calendar's over there, that's why I'm glancing over there. It's November the 19th. This is what I've watched since my last DVD and Blu-ray update. Not loads, but enough to talk about. So first up is this box set that I've been watching over the last couple of months. I think it's probably been now. So this is an Arrow box set. Stray Cat, I say box set, it's all in one Arrow case, so it's not technically a box set, but it's multiple films on multiple discs. Stray Cat Rock, so these are 5 Japanese films from the late 60s and early 70s. And they're a series of films about gangs, basically, in Japan. Around that time, sort of dropout, delinquent gangs, drug use, sex, violence, that sort of thing. There's 2 cast members, I think, who are in all the films. I won't even try to pronounce their names or anything. A female cast member and a male cast member. That's the female cast member who's in them all. They're all sort of similar, but they're sufficiently different that they weren't too samey watching them all. So the first film was Delinquent Girl Boss. As I say, I've been watching these for a while. It's taken me a while to get through all 5, so I might slightly muddle up what happens in each film. But Delinquent Girl Boss is a girl gang. It's definitely a girl gang. Oh. Yes, it is the boxing one. Yes, okay. So it's a girl gang, and they get involved with the Japanese mob, basically, who are fixing boxing matches. It was okay. I think I ranked it at 2.5 stars. It was watchable, but it wasn't great. The second one was Wild Jumbo, which was really good. Well, I say really good. I think I only gave it 3.5 in the end. But it's probably the one I enjoyed most of the 5. So it's a gang who get involved in stealing from a religious cult who are really just a money laundering scheme type thing. And it's about, the robbery and the planning of it, and then what happens, and etc. I won't spoil it, but yeah, that's probably the one I enjoyed the most. And there's Sex Hunter, which is very mistitled, but basically there's a girl gang and a male gang called the Eagles, and the Eagles are very racist against what they call, half-breeds. So people who aren't entirely Japanese, and the girl gang befriend some people of that ilk, and it's about that battle. That was perfectly good. I think, apart from the first one, which I gave 2.5, I think I gave all the others 3.5. A 4th film was Machine Animal. So there's a American. I think he was American deserter from Vietnam, I think it was, who'd fled to Japan. And him and his 2 Japanese friends trying to sell some LSD. They meet this girl gang, and they sort of join forces, and then they're against another gang who supply all the drugs locally. And it's, about that rivalry and them sorting each other out. That was a very good one as well. And then the last one, Beat 71. So the son of a this is most fresh in my mind because I only watched it a couple of days ago. The son of a corrupt mayor in a Japanese town or village flees and goes to the city and falls in with these delinquents, falls in love with a girl. The mayor sends the local gang to get the son back. The son kills one of the members of the gang, gets knocked out and taken back to this village, and they pin the murder on the girl. The girl escapes from prison and goes to get her man back. The gang she's with follows her there to try and bring them both back, or at least her, but preferably both of them back. And it's about that, basically, but that was very good as well. But yeah, these won't be to everybody's taste, as, you know, obviously they're Japanese, they're all in Japanese, they're late 60s, early 70s, very stylised. But if you don't mind that sort of thing, they're worth watching. As I say, the first one wasn't great, but the other three is definitely, other four are definitely worth watching. Okay, this is The Fault in Our Stars. So, probably a year ago now, possibly even longer, I watched Paper Towns, was it called? With Cara Delevingne and somebody else, which was based on a book by John Green, and it was made by the same team, basically, who made this film. And I enjoyed that, so I thought, I'll go back and try this. Picked it up, I think it was Poundland or something like that. It certainly wasn't expensive. And picked it up because it's by the same author and by the same people. So in this, Shailene Woodley plays Hazel, who has cancer, since a child. She's 18, 19 now, I think. Is basically living on borrowed time. You know, her parents had said goodbye to her at one point as a child, thinking she was going to die, and then she recovered. But she's permanently on oxygen to help with her breathing, etc. She's fairly reclusive, but gets forced to go to these cancer group meetings. And at one of those, she meets Gus, played by Ansel Elgort, from Baby Driver, and West Side Story, I think he was in as well, wasn't he? Who has recovered from cancer. They click, they become friends, and eventually more. And I won't say too much without spoiling it, but it's, very good, very sad. Made me cry in a couple of points, but very well acted, very well plotted. Good film. This is The Wiz. So this is the black disco version of The Wizard of Oz, made in the late 70s, 78, I want to say, off the top of my head. And I'd be correct. So it's got Michael Jackson as the Scarecrow, Diana Ross as Dorothy, Richard Pryor as the Wizard, various other, Lena Horne as one of the fairies. I love Wizard of Oz. Obviously, the story I basically know, but it is changed, to suit. So obviously they're not in Kansas, they're in New York, I think it is. And it's a very different looking Oz. The Munchkins are very different, the settings are all very different. It is a very different version of it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It wasn't magnificent. I've, far prefer The Wizard of Oz. But there's some good tracks in it. Yeah, it was okay. This is Wildfire. So this is a film written by and directed, or just directed by? I think he co-wrote. Paul Dano, the actor. Stars Kerry Mulligan and Jake Gyllenhaal. So they're a married couple. They've got a son played by, I think, Ed Oxenbould is the son. Does it say on here? No, but I think he is. In a, again, it's a Montana, near the Canadian border. They live in this small town, and the father, played by Jake, has trouble holding down jobs. But otherwise, they're sort of a happy family. But he goes off to fight wildfires, and the mother, played by Kerry Mulligan, sort of gets bored and starts having an affair with this much older guy. And it's just sort of, I can't remember if I called this Wildfire or Wildlife. It's called Wildlife, as you can see, but I've got a feeling I called it Wildfire. And it's just basically sort of, it's all sort of more or less through the son's perspective. He's teenage. Yeah, it's sort of basically just about those relationships. But it was a good film. I enjoyed it a fair bit. It wasn't wonderful, but with actors of this calibre, and I adore Kerry Mulligan, it can't not be good, if you see what I mean. Yeah, worth a watch. So a few months back, and I have mentioned this on other videos, my friend Lauren recommended some films to me. We'd been driving back, I work with her, and we'd been driving back from doing a cash and carry run, and she was sort of skipping through her Spotify playlists, and she was playing some music from films, and saying, "Oh, you know, have you seen this one?" I said, "No." "Have you seen this one?" She said, "Oh, I really need to give you a list of films to watch," and eventually she did, and I bought them all, and they are the next 5 films in this pile. So first up we have Beautiful Boy. So this was an Amazon, I think, or Apple exclusive originally, but it did obviously have a physical release. Might be an Apple. Or was it Amazon? Anyway, doesn't matter. So it's Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet, and she likes Timothée Chalamet. With Maura Tierney and Amy Ryan. Basically, Timothée Chalamet, Steve Carell is a writer, writes for newspapers. His son, Timothée Chalamet, basically after the divorce of his parents, starts getting into drugs, becomes heavily addicted, and it's about that, how they deal with it, the recovery, the relapses, all that sort of stuff. It's wonderfully acted film. Bit slow at times, but by the nature of a subject, you know, it's never going to be a fast-paced, you know, film. But it was 2 hours long, and it probably could have had about 20 minutes cut from it without any major problems. But yeah, it is the sort of the acting that was what made the film. Yeah, I did struggle at times with it, but overall, definitely worth a watch. This was magnificent. This is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This is a film that's been on my radar ever since it came out, but had never got round to buying. So it's a French film. So painter, played by Naomi Merlon, is sent to a remote island to paint a portrait of Adele Haenel, who has been betrothed to a somebody from Milan, I think it was. And, you know, obviously most days before cameras, they had to send a picture to them. But this girl's not interested in the marriage and doesn't want to pose and what have you. Basically, they end up becoming friends and then more than friends. And it's just a beautiful love story, really well acted, really well told. Very emotional at the end. Very good film. most of you probably familiar with this. Christopher Nolan. I struggle with Christopher Nolan because I don't think he writes characters that it's easy to become emotionally involved with. He very good with effects and action and twisty-turny plotting, but often struggle finding a character who I can empathise with. This, so far, is the exception in what I've watched of Nolan. I haven't watched everything. This is the first time I actually cared about the characters in any of his films, really. Yeah, very good film. Brilliant performance by Matthew McConaughey, as well as Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, Michael Caine, etc. Got a bit 2001 at the end. Not entirely convinced it needed to go quite so trippy. But otherwise, yeah, really well done and really clever. Very much enjoyed Interstellar. On that note, Dunkirk. So this is a prime example. It was a great looking film, really well done. There were some of aspects of it that were, obviously it's based on a true story. There's some aspects of it that were so unrealistic, it sort of took you out of the film. Most notably, quite how long the Spitfire went without the engines working at the end. Without spoiling anything. That sort of took me out of the film quite a bit. But none of the characters in it were written well enough that I particularly cared for their fates. But I enjoyed the film, and it was definitely glad I watched it. This is a nice package with a little book in there and everything. And the last one she recommended was Call Me By Your Name, which again was a film I was aware of and was intrigued by, but it never quite made me think, oh, I must watch that. But I'm really glad I did. So this is Timothée Chalamet again, and he's a young lad in France. So if I remember correctly, it's an American father and a French mother. So they, he's bilingual, and most of the film is sort of in English, but there's some French dialogue as well. Not French, Italian. Sorry, Italian. So he's 17, and the father is a hugely respected professor, and they often have people come over to study with him and learn from him, etc. And Arnie Hammer comes over, and basically Timothée Chalamet's character falls in love with Armie Hammer, and it's mutual, and they have a love affair. I sort of watched the film, and for most of the runtime, I enjoyed it. I was interested in what was happening. I cared about the characters, but it wasn't really hitting me emotionally. I didn't care enough about them that I was overly bothered if the relationship was or wasn't working. There was aspects to both their characters that I wasn't hugely in love with. They annoyed me at times. They pissed me off at times. So I wasn't entirely convinced. But then near the end of the film, the father, played by Michael Stuhlbarg, gives a speech that really, really hit me, and I was bawling my eyes out. It was really, that sort of turned the film around for me, and I loved it by the end. Would highly recommend. Obviously, it's about a homosexual love affair. If you're somebody who struggles with that sort of thing, you won't want to watch this film. But that's, your own business, if you like. As long as you're happy with that, I recommend this film. Really good soundtrack as well. I have bought the soundtrack on vinyl, which I have shown. Good film. A couple more. So these were both bought in sales. This is Tales at Witness Madness, a fabulous film's release of a 1970s film, mid-70s I think it was, 73. So this is a portmanteau film. the linking theme is that Donald Pleasance goes to a mental asylum. He's a doctor, and is told about these different patients and what has happened to them that's made them go mad. And then we see those, those stories. I'm trying to. Does it? No, it doesn't describe what happens. So there's one where Joan Collins is the girlfriend of a guy who brings home a big section of a tree that had fallen in their local forest, and he brings it into the house to use as an ornament. And he gradually falls in love with that tree because it looks vaguely feminine, and so on and so forth, without spoiling that little bit of it. Michael Jaston plays the partner there. I'm trying to remember what else there is. There's Ritual Sacrifice. Again, I won't spoil too much about that one. I can't remember what the other... Oh, there's a child with an imaginary friend who has murderous tendencies. I think there's one other bit, but I can't remember what that is. It's decent enough. It was a perfectly enjoyable bit of fluff, some good performances. Nothing spectacular, but if you like that sort of thing, well worth a watch. And finally, Sheltering Sky. So I had this film on... I think I had it on VHS and on DVD, but picked it up in the Sky. This is an Arrow release. Arrow Academy rather than Arrow normal Arrow films. So it's a Bernardo Bertolucci film. Deborah Ringer and John Malkovich are a married couple who are travelling in the North Africa. In the, I think it's sort of 20s, 30s, sort of between the wars. It's set, I believe. Doesn't say, no. And it's basically about the travels, their relationship, obviously, beautiful scenery and what have you, people they meet. Again, not wanting to spoil the film, what happens to them on this journey. It's very much a slow film. What are we? 138 minutes, I think that is. Yeah. So 2 hours 20, give or take, with probably only really about half an hour's worth of plot. But, it's all lots of journeys and stuff like that, and, long lingering shots, or just, scenes of, them eating and stuff, and just general chit-chat. There's not really plot, if you see what I mean. But it's wonderfully done, wonderfully acted. It's a film I've always had a lot of time for, and as I say, always looks spectacular. Sheltering Sky. So there you go. That's what I've been watching over the last few months. As I say, not a lot. As I've just mentioned before, I alternate. So I always have 2 TV box sets on the go, and then films, and if one of them's a box set, I don't watch them back to back. So I'll watch film A, TV series A, disc of each, film B, TV series B, again, a disc. So if it is a film box set, that'll be film A, film C, film E, film G, etc. I hope you understand what I mean. And the TV series I've been watching, particularly one of them, box set of all of Sykes. It's something like 16 discs, and I'm up to like disc 10. But obviously that all takes a lot of time, and TV series are normally, at least 3 hours on a disc or something like that. So it eats into time for just watching just a film on its own. So that's why it's not a huge amount. But looking at what's sort of coming up, I think I'm going to start ploughing through them a bit quicker, hopefully, if I get my arse into gear and actually get around to watching stuff. Anyway, as I say, that's it. Probably the last update for this year on those, I would imagine. But thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Thanks.